Why so many firms are busy but they are not really scaling?
Well, that's a tough question. I mean, the economy's been a little rough on the staffing industry over the last 3 years.
What actually has shaped you in thinking about building and leading a staffing business today?
In trying to scale our business, we hit 24 years this year in business. I think it's really, again, been about just reinvesting in the organization, reinvesting in people. Ultimately, is growing our bottom line.
And there are a lot of things that probably remains in the mind of the hiring manager.
We have a recruiting kickoff call for every role we have with the hiring manager.
We see a very high attrition. I believe that the cost of rehiring and retraining is 4 to 5 times more than the cost of hiring a resource. Is AI going to elevate recruiters?
That's been the buzz, right? So everyone, the fear is that we're going to lose our job. And it's just another tool for our toolbox.
Right.
You just have to use that efficiently and effectively.
The future of staffing belongs to leaders who
Belongs to leaders who, again, invest in their organization, invest in their people, the frontline people.
This is Rahul Karan Sharma, and you are listening to The Staffing Truth, where we talk about what actually drives growth in the staffing industry. And I want to start today with something I've been observing. We in our industry talk a lot about speed, KPIs, and placements, but we don't talk enough about what actually is breaking behind the scenes. Why do many teams struggle under pressure? Why do experienced recruiters fail when they step into leadership? And why so many firms are busy, but they are not really scaling? That's exactly what we are unpacking today. And I'm excited to have someone with me who has been building, leading, and navigating these realities firsthand. Keith Fiscus is our guest. He is the owner of ICR Staffing, Innovative Career Services and Staffing, where he has been focused on building strong client relationships and delivering talent solutions that actually work. With years of experience in the staffing industry, Keith brings a practical, no nonsense perspective on what it takes to grow and sustain a staffing business. Keith, welcome to our show. I'm very excited to have you here. How are you doing today?
Well, thanks so much. Excited to be here. I'm doing great. So thanks for having me.
Great. I'm glad that we were able to have this conversation penned down on our calendar for today. You have been a great resource to many staffing professionals, specifically in the state of California, where you are leading the California Staffing Association chapter.
Mm.
I want to understand, as you are interacting with so many leaders, so many staffing owners, what is something that staffing industries is getting completely wrong right now?
Well, that's a tough question. I mean, the economy's been a little rough on the staffing industry over the last 3 years, but we're starting to come out of that. A lot of my colleagues and associates, we're starting to kind of feel that turn, which is fantastic. I think that, and we've seen a lot of smaller firms kind of go under for that very reason. They just can't sustain the 3 year length. So I think what's helped those of us who've been able to navigate that is I think really allowing our staff, our recruiters, our managers to take ownership of their decisions.
Hmm.
My job as a leader, as a CEO and owner, isn't to fix everybody's problem, right? I want everyone to have the autonomy to do so. I think sometimes leadership, they want to make the final call, they want to make the call, and ultimately that's my job, that's our job. However, I want to challenge my staff. I want to challenge those within my organization. Okay, that's your decision. Tell me about that. Tell me why, right? I want to empower them. And I think doing that gives everyone ownership, and they all own the company, right? It's just not me. They all are striving for success, not just for their personal commission, but for the growth of the organization. Excuse me. I feel like that's what's helped us and probably a lot of the other staffing firms.
I think one of the point that you're bringing, and I so very much second on that point, is the leadership, the decisions that our frontline staff are making. It's very important for them to give that empowerment. And I have noticed many companies talk about empowerment, but when it comes to key decisions, it's always been taken in the closed boardroom. It's very seldomly is being taken in consensus with the frontline staff. And that's what you are focusing at. And the companies who are scaling up and who are doing well are the ones who are actually taking that frontline staff opinion, challenging them, and making sure that they are having their skin in the game. And it's just not we as leaders just giving all the responses.
Right.
So
I mean,
thank you for bringing it.
ultimately, it's not a democracy in a sense,
Hmm.
but again, I don't make decisions without hearing everyone's perspective. And that actually sometimes changes my perspective because, we all have blind spots, right? So someone's
Yeah.
seeing something that I'm not. And so that's where and it's critical for me is to hear everyone's opinion. And then we come to consensus, make a decision.
So, Keith, from your journey, share with us what actually has shaped you in thinking about building and leading a staffing business today. If you have to redo your company or open another one, what kind of experiences that you had has led you to do something different? Share with us.
Number one, I don't know if I had the energy to open another one personally. But that being said, it was interesting. I made an interesting transition in careers younger in my life. I was an ER nurse in another lifetime, and I made a transition for various reasons into the staffing industry. I've always felt people would say, wow, that's such a economy. That's so different. I said, not really. When I was a nurse, I was helping people. I mean, I'm not Mother Teresa by no means, but on the flip side of staffing, I'm helping people. We're helping clients. We're helping people kind of break into the industry or people make transitions to another career. So for me, excuse me, in trying to scale our business or scaling our business, we hit 24 years this year in business. I think it's really, again, been about just reinvesting in the organization, reinvesting in the people. I've had some phenomenal leaders, even and mentors, some of the mentors younger than myself, right? I only know what I know. And so I've had individuals, by a gentleman by the name of Warren Rustand, amazing leader. He leads up to his circle of five expands in individuals in the government. So a lot of leadership. So that has kind of helped me grow as a leader to see things, outside of the box to help me kind of grow. How do I look at clients? How can we best serve our clients? Just because it's business doesn't mean it's good business, right? And that's not rocket science, but just not chasing everything because, I've never chased the bottom line personally. I mean, money makes the world go round. But if we do the right thing, if we're true to our word, we take care of our clients, the money comes, that all comes, the success comes, and everyone defines success differently, right? But for me, it's work-life balance. It's important for me in our organization that people have that ability to have some freedom, make sure they take the time when they need the time. We're pretty flexible there because I want people to be reinvigorated, right? I want people to come to work and they enjoy what they're doing and they're not exhausted and it's not in grind. So that's helped us. I don't know if I'm answering your question, but the question, excuse me,
No,
it's going to help
No,
us.
I think what I'm taking away is if you are to build a staffing business, make sure that you are continuing to invest in your people because your people are your biggest asset. Your people are the ones who are visiting the clients, visiting your candidates for coffees or luncheon or happy hour. And if they are not happy, if their work-life balance is not in line, it will come up at work. It will come up as a frustration. It will come up as they being non-humble, they being not showing the gratitude because they are agitated with themselves for whatever reasons. And
Sure.
I think as a leader, it is important for us to see how our employees are feeling on a day-to-day basis because if they are not feeling good, definitely the output will have a different side effect. There was one new person was telling me about cooking. Everyone loves their mother's food or homemade food, and one of the key differentiator is the love that has been poured in when we are cooking, is the mindset when we are cooking, or I want to feed my family. So the same thing, it is with what mindset are our employees working? Are they working with that growth mindset, with that mindset that they really want to make a difference? I understand that we as staffing industry professionals, we are also in noble profession. We help people bring food on the table, we bring smiles on people's face. So that is what the biggest takeaway from me, from Keith, in the way you are mentioned is, stay invested in your people, right in that early stage, not at the time when they have already become a leader. And that's something important.
I love the, and I've used that before as well as far as cooking. Okay, so one of I love cooking. I come from a big Italian family, Sunday dinners, right? And yeah, I mean, there's a difference between cooking with when you love to cook. Food always tastes better versus someone who has to put a meal together and put in or something different about that,
Right.
and kind of a pivot a little bit to some of the things. It's not just our internal staff, but it's also our contractors, right? We want all of our contractors, people who are on temp to hire, direct hire, to feel like they're part of our team. Send out little things, right? I mean, it's the little things in life that count. One thing we do is we offer for our contractors is we offer a matching 401k. Right. I don't know what other agencies, maybe other agencies do that as well. But for us, it's like, hey, how do we provide value to our contractors? Because without them, we would not have a business. And we match that, right? We want to help them become financially, save some money on taxes, so on and so forth. So it's not just the internal staff that we have to take care of, it's our external staff as well.
Sure. I think because they are working, that's how we are getting that revenue, right? So we internal staff, we help find that resource, but that resource whom we find is actually doing the job. Now, since we are talking on that leadership aspect, Keith, I want to take your perspective on, I have seen many organizations when they are scaling up, they don't plan. It just happens because maybe the market is responding that way. And in that process, what happens, we tend to promote people who are high performing. So why, from your perspective, great or successful recruiters, they often struggle when it comes to a leadership role? What has been your experience?
I think my experience is it really comes down to their leadership, right? I mean, giving them kind of mentoring them. Again, I've been mentored, so pay it forward. You mentor your people, and again, it goes back to the ability to give them the autonomy to make decisions, which in turn gives them, in my opinion, the what's the word I'm looking for? As far as feeling good about themselves, gives them the autonomy that they're like, okay, good, I can make decisions. And that I think helps with their personal growth, plus investing in them. We try to send our people to some of the conferences, just simple things. If you hit X number, you get X amount of starts. Hey, let's go to this conference. Like I sit on the board for the California Staffing and Professionals Association for the whole state of California. We have an annual conference. It's a 2-day conference with amazing breakouts on AI and recruiting and leadership and stuff. So if I can get our people to that, that's just a value add that comes back to the organization. If you're not investing in your people, again, it's not rocket science. But if they're just there if you just see them as, your frontline, your recruiters, they're filling positions, that's all they're going to ever be. Right. And if you want to scale your company, you need to kind of bring the leadership from the bottom up.
The point that I'm taking away from this response, Keith, is it's just not about your entry level staff or performing recruiters. If you have to start grooming people, you need to start grooming from top down. Because if their leaders are not showing the true value of a leader, they will not be passed on to others. They will not be able to build a legacy. So, very rightly said. And again, those networking events, those association events, SIA events, or any staffing industry events, we just don't go to have wine and food or just meet people. There is also a lot of learning. You get to see what other organizations are doing. You get to see what you are missing on. You may be thinking that this is not the way to do it, but some other companies are getting success on that. So you get different perspective, you get to meet some new people and get some knowledge from the industry veterans. And that's so amazing.
I think one of the things that potentially stuns some growth at companies is, and I understand it, but when we go to those types of events, people are afraid that you're going to try to steal their clients. You have to go into it with the mindset that as an industry, we're trying to or should be helping each other out. right? I don't care about your clients. Those are your clients, but how are you doing things? How are you getting in the door, right? How are you doing business development? Here are some of our challenges. And that way we kind of grow together. I mean, some of my best friends are staffing owners. So, there's no competition. There's always healthy competition, but there's no
Sure.
competition. It's about how can we all grow? How can we grow our industry? Because sometimes the staffing industry has a black eye. We've got some amazing industry, some players like any industry, maybe not so ethical, but and that's where the California Staffing and Professional Association, we really promote that. We're in Sacramento every year. We're lobbying with our senators, our assembly members
Mhm.
to promote our industry, right? And to and therefore help that helps our clients, it helps our industry, but it helps our clients too, because we're an advocate for them. Because a lot of these laws that are passed in California really trickle down potentially to our clients as well. So I probably went off the different tangent, and I
No,
apologize,
no,
but
that's
those are
fine.
things that
That's
I'm
fine.
passionate about.
Oh, very good. I really second that because every industry we have people who are doing great, and then there are people who are using different means to come to that level, and that really tarnish the image of the industry. And as a good citizen or as a veteran in the industry, it's our job to protect it because just for few individuals or maybe few companies, the entire industry is image is going for a toss. So I second that, and the effort that California Staffing and Recruiting Association is taking to make sure that we limit those kind of companies. That's amazing. Kudos to you and your team. Um,
And one thing I would say is like, don't be afraid to share that secret sauce, right? I mean, don't
mhm,
be afraid to, because again, it's we're all should be, my perspective, trying to grow, right? So I mean,
mhm.
just we all have little golden nuggets, right? I mean, don't be afraid to share them.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. And I think the another thing I have noticed, Keith, is just by sharing my secret sauce does not mean that someone else will replicate it. Like if you see, since we were talking about food, there are so many videos that we see online, from the cooking recipe. But if we are able to replicate those things, then there will be no restaurant business. There will be no chef-based restaurants.
Right.
We still go to those restaurants because even if we know what are the ingredients that needs to go in a dish, it's those fine tuning. The
Right.
quantity, at what level you need to boil something, how you need to chop your veggies, and all those things matter. And same thing in our business. It's just if I know that my competition is distributing bagels or a donuts or a free coffee. That is not what wins business. What wins business is your approach, your mindset to help your client, to make sure that your client sees value in you, because there
Mhm.
are so many partners who are doing the same thing. How are you different and how you are adding value to your clients? Very well said. Now, on that note, I know a lot of decisions, Keith, as a owner, you need to take based on looking at our books. And our industry also, the profit margin has been shrinking year over year. On that front, when people look at the books, what sometimes you see that as a growth does not seem as a growth, and actually that slows down. So what are some of the things that probably disguise a staffing owner where they see, oh yeah, we are growing, but in reality they are not growing? What could be those things?
Well, and I learned I was in an organization years ago called EO, Entrepreneurs Organization, and I learned that it's not always the top line that really matters. You can have amazing, gross annual sales. It's the bottom line really that matters, right? So, and again, to your point with the, kind of shrinking margins, how are we doing business differently to add value that ultimately is growing our bottom line? Instead of having this amazing large number up top. So, I think, for us, just making the adjustments as far as showing our clients the value add, showing where we're different, and being a partner versus a vendor. I mean that's ultimately my goal, is to be the partner. I think that's all of our goal, but a trusted partner, so they can call us. They know when they're going to call us that they're going to get quick turnaround time. They're going to get people who have been fully vetted. I always tell people we're not a resume shop. So if you want 5, 6, 7, 8 resumes, we're not your company. because you can do that on your own. So really adding that additional value, for us has helped us grow. And again, just,
Mhm.
you know, just helping them understand our partnership versus a necessary, evil, so to speak.
Mm. Yeah.
Hopefully I answered that question.
No, I think is absolutely right. So looking at the bottom line, not just looking at the top line, because
Mm.
sometimes bottom line will really show you how you are growing and where you really need to focus on in terms of growth. Now, since we are talking around the bottom line and the top line, for the recruiters friends who would be listening to us, when a placement slows down, what I have observed is everyone start talking or raising their voice to the recruiter that, hey, you did not do the job. Now, in your experience, when actually placement goes down, where do you think the real breakdown happens? Is it sales? Is it recruiting? Or is it leadership?
Obviously, you're always accountable as a leader, right? That buck stops with leadership. That goes back to personally, that goes back to training and autonomy. I
Mm.
think not just in our industry and staffing, but in life, it always comes down to communication, right? And if you, let's say we have a direct hire placement or we're placing somebody, it's not just about getting that invoice. We're constantly in communication with that individual that we've placed. We want to, hey, is everything working out? Is it the job that we explained early on? But we're also doing that with the managers as well. Hey, how's so and so working out? And we're just following that process. So it's not a one and done. And we're listening for any red flags. So the goal is to be proactive. And I think so we try not to point fingers. Now, if a recruiter's not staying in touch with their individual, well, then shame on them because that's how they've been trained. That's what they should be doing. So again, for me, that's where the breakdown is communication. If you're on top of things, it's a lot easier to salvage than it is to replace. And the goal is
Mm.
a successful placement, not only for us, but for our client as well and our candidate.
Yeah. So recruiting leaders, staffing leaders, when you don't see placements coming in, that's not about one team. It is all about the communication happening in the entire organization.
Absolutely.
How the notes are being taken when the sales is meeting with the hiring manager. Do we have a documentation? Do we really know what things they have missed out in the job description? Because typically recruiters works out of job description, and there are a lot of things that probably remains in the mind of the hiring manager. They do not pen down, or probably they just pick up a standard job description online and they just share with the partners. So
Well,
very, very
part of our
important
process,
communication. Mm.
yeah, sorry about that, interrupt. Part of our process for every position, I don't care if it's an entry level position or high, is our director of talent acquisition, who's amazing, has a recruiting kickoff call. We have a recruiting kickoff call for every role we have with the hiring manager. And we kind of explain that with our clients is like, we need 5 minutes. I've got a job description. I understand, but and just spending those 5 minutes, we learn various nuances about the job that aren't in the job description, or it's just learn about the department, how many people are in the industry or in the organization, and so on and so forth. And I think that helps, right? And it goes to your point, business development. And I know business development professionals, they're bringing a business. That's their job, bringing business. But again, qualifying that business before just bringing in anything, right? Let's bring in good business, because at that point, then everyone's successful other than just trying to place. We're not all things for everybody.
Wow. I think that's the secret sauce Keith is sharing with us is getting on a call with the hiring manager for maybe 5 to 10 minutes with your recruiting team involved. That is the key aspects. And I will tell you, Keith, I'm talking about back my own recruiting days back in 4 and 5, 2000. I have there was a client of ours who used to do that. Who used to do they do not used to do just with us, they used to do partners call. And there the hiring manager used to come in and share their inputs, what all going in their mind. They talk about the culture in the team and everything. And that was so powerful, that was so beneficial, because otherwise we were just recruiting in the dark hole. We don't know what the culture
Yeah.
looks like. We don't have any information to share with the candidate. And I think what you and your team is doing is simply phenomenal. And so that's the $1 million solution for a recruiting team and sales team to really make things happen. That's amazing.
Well,
And
and that actually transitions to the bottom line, right? To be honest
mhm,
with you,
yes.
because to your point, if we don't have a few minutes. It's an investment on the front end versus us just, to your point, sending resumes of people we're not 100% sure if they're qualified, right? Based on just not having that conversation. Having those few minutes conversation, saves us time, saves our manager's time, the hiring manager, HR. It saves everyone time. It helps close potentially opportunities a lot quicker at the end of the day, bottom line.
Mm.
And again, it's a small investment on the upfront versus just constantly emailing, asking questions about the job, asking questions, you know what I mean? So,
Yep. And I think that's where that earlier we were talking about that value addition. That's where you are adding value to your client, saving their time. Because if you are asking question every 2 hours, you are not doing service to them. You are basically annoying them. But
correct.
taking their 10 minutes, 15 minutes time upfront before we start working on that role would be a game changer, both for the client as well as for the recruiting team. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Now, I think on that front, I will also talk about it specifically in many companies. It's all about the culture. Culture plays a very critical role. And because the culture has become so high, a lot of companies, they're also taking those catchy phrases or names, putting behind the walls. But in reality, things are very, very different. So
Mhm.
if a leader really wants to know if their culture is real, or just something that exists when things going well, what are the things they need to observe to really know that culture is real?
When I started my business, I did a small stint, kind of broke into the industry, and I worked with a particular organization and said, use all the buzzwords, right? But then I wasn't really seeing what they were saying. It wasn't really translating. And that's kind of when I started my business. It's like, well, we're going to do it this way because this is what we believe in, right? We truly believe in being a partner. We believe in, you're not just a time card, so on and so forth. Success for us is the fact that we continue to work with people we placed as entry level. 10 years later, our director of talent acquisition has been with us for 21 of our 24 years in business. We don't have a lot of turnover, right? And sometimes when you work with some firms, you get a different manager or a different every year or something. You have a lot of turnover, right? So for us, we used to we'd have a book club. And I learned this, a friend of mine had started it actually. And we had various books and it kept all of us aligned and everyone could pick, every month you pick a book and read the book, answer 5 questions. And at the end of the month, we would, depending on how many books you read, you would get a certain amount of points. And based on those points, there was a draw. Everyone would draw envelopes. And within those envelopes, there could be $100 bill, there could be a $1 bill, there could be whatever. But it kept us all aligned because we were all reading the same leadership books. I don't want to say self-help books. So building that culture where there's total alignment, I think is critical in the success and longevity of keeping great people because great people are hard to find. So once you've got them, it's just trying to keep them.
Yeah, I think where Keith is focusing on is on the retention. And I second to what Keith was mentioning that in many companies, specifically in the contingency staffing, we see a very high attrition. And sometimes we take it as a normal that, okay, no, we are in an industry where high attrition. So 30% is okay.
Sure.
Now, that is a way to look at it, but then there is other way to look at it. But why are we letting that people go? Because I believe that the cost of rehiring and retraining is 4 to 5 times more than the cost of hiring a resource.
Right.
And if we are letting those 30% of people go, that cost, unfortunately, is not visible in the balance sheet. You don't see that. The cost of retraining, the cost of rehiring, all those costs. So I don't think we as leaders we should be taking proud in a high attrition. I think we need to really relook at the way we are hiring, the way we are managing people when they come on board, and allowing them to grow along with them. As a Keith mentioned, that matching 401k. I mean, I have not seen many staffing companies doing it. So Keith, thank you for doing for your employees. It is a big ask, and then I know what toll can it takes on the bottom line for your company.
Sure.
But you are doing it because you care for your people, and that's the true differentiator. Sharing the value that you care for people versus doing things that really care for people. That is the differentiator. So if you're looking to see whether your values are real or not, make sure that those values are actually executed, implemented, not just in communication, but in true action, in real action. That's very important.
Anyone, you can say anything, but you do it,
Correct.
right? And it goes back to cooking. If you love cooking, you're going to put love into it, right? If you love what you do and you truly care about your employees, and again, you got to take care of them, whether they're a contractor, or internal staff. I mean, that's critical because I wouldn't have a business if I didn't have contractors out there and employees and clients, and even you got to take care of them. And that doesn't mean just dropping off donuts.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
being when we'll get, I'm kind, and you probably have done this too in your past. I'm involved in so many legal updates, especially in California, and it's in bringing those back and sharing those with our clients because sometimes they don't, they're not on top of it or whatever. So hey,
Hmm.
FYI, this just came down the pipe. Want to keep an eye out on it, so on and so forth. So it's just to your point, just being a value add.
Right. Next, I wanted to take your inputs on the AI aspect. A lot of noises around internet that AI will replace recruiters, AI will replace the way recruiters do things. And I wanted to take your input, and maybe based on the conversation you folks have in your association,
Sure.
is AI going to elevate recruiters or just expose the gaps that we have been seeing in the industry?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, that's been the buzz, right, for the last few years, AI, right? And so everyone, the fear is we're gonna lose our jobs. I don't think it's gonna. You always need the human touch, regardless. Now, AI might help you identify candidates or resumes a little quicker, right? And but at the end of the day, it's the human touch that's reaching out to that person. That's really because people write their resumes via AI, right? So but you got to dig, and so that's where the human element will never be replaceable. There's a lot of great options that we can use with AI, and I'm not by no means an AI a professional or I can't see, but I don't think we'll ever I think it can enhance our industry. I don't think it will hinder our industry or take jobs away from our industry. It's just how we use it, like anything, and it's just another tool for our toolbox.
Right.
We just have to use that efficiently and effectively.
Correct. And I think that's where my thoughts are. Use the tool to elevate your work. Use the tool to take more on you, a more quality piece, which is the human element, as you mentioned. Have those one-on-ones with your people, have your one-on-ones with the contractors, have one-on-ones with your hiring managers. So utilize that time with the help of AI rather than just thinking that, okay, my job will be go away. Now, this is also, I will tell you that it will definitely expose those recruiters who are not really focusing on the network based recruiting or relationship based recruiting, because I think in today's scenario it's all about the relationship. People will not come to you just because you are giving them a higher pay rate. Yes, there may be a few percentage of people who
Of
will
course.
only go with the higher pay rate, but majority of them, if they don't like you as a recruiter, if they don't like the way you are working, you are treating with them, no matter how much you are paying you, they will not work with you. So relationship based recruiting is the key, and that is what it will expose with the AI. It will be very easy for the tool to know where you are falling short and where you are really doing good, right?
Well, I think in any industry, especially any people industry, any service industry, right? You have to be genuine. And I think that comes through when you're recruiting, if you're talking to someone, and one of the biggest complaints, and I'm sure you have this as well, when I'm talking to, or when we're talking to potential contractors, potential employees for our clients, the biggest complaint is they never hear back from the recruiter, right? They never hear, that someone called me about a job. They never call me back. I haven't heard like for us personally, when we identify a candidate, we share the information. Now, that might not be a normal practice in our industry. Maybe it is nowadays, but I know there's always a lot of concern about somebody going and applying behind our back. We don't have time for that, right? We're too busy. We'll do our telephone interview, our initial interview, our formal interview. Here's the company website. Here's the job description as we discussed. You take a look at it. You call me back and tell me if this is a role you're interested, if this is a company you're interested. I'm not concerned about you applying behind my back, right? Because if you have that relationship with HR, all it takes is a phone call and say, hey, I talked to that person. They didn't know which we'd rather not do. But I think that's when you start to build the trust because they're like, oh, well, that's different because other recruiters just call and then we don't hear back from them. And it's like, you're just another recruiter.
Hmm.
So I think that's also bringing some value add,
Sure.
to our contractors
Yeah,
as well.
absolutely. And I think that is one of the bigger differentiator is the communication you brought up this point, but the communication with the candidates who are not
Mhm.
shortlisted or who are not selected, because you never know how they will show up for another position and where you will need their help with a different client. If there is no communication, guess what? They will become a candidate for someone else. So
Right.
keeping in touch, responding to candidates, even if they have not shortlisted, is very, very important.
We've
Now, Keith,
actually, to be honest, we've gotten business based on
mhm,
that years later. And there was a
wow.
one candidate in particular we had, and she was a phenomenal candidate. We submitted her. They didn't pick her. She didn't get the job. Literally 8 years later, she was now a manager elsewhere. She reached out to us because the experience she had, even though she didn't get the job, but the experience she
Mhm.
had with our organization, and then all of a sudden I got a new client because now I'm hiring for her. Right. So it's
Wow.
and it goes back to being genuine because it'll pay off. If you're genuine, it'll pay off,
Sure.
whether it's tomorrow or
Yes.
8 years down the road.
Correct. Every deal will not be a successful deal, but it's all about the experience you leave
Right.
as a process of that deal. It is between you or your client or you or your candidate. Keith, I have three questions that has been shared with me. These are the people who are wanting to get answers from executive like you. So I will be sharing those three questions with you. The first one is why the executive leaders, they do not involve ground level people when they are taking a decision which is impacting them. Any thoughts? This may not relate to you personally, but
Mhm.
from your experience, why do senior executive in the staffing industry they do not involve people at the ground when it comes to taking a decision which will impact them?
Sure. Ego, for
Mhm.
my opinion, right? Because
Okay.
they
Okay.
know it all. They know
Mhm.
everything, and I get that. But and we've brought in professional coaches within our to work with our whole team with the company over the years, right? And that's critical because again, that shows the investment in our frontline staff because I'm invested. Whether you take that information and use it just at work or you use that information at life, hearing from a professional coach, right? So yeah, I
Mhm.
think, but truly, I think if leadership, it's all ego, and it's like you got to put that aside because again, we all have blind spots, and you need to give people the autonomy to make decisions.
Mm.
From my opinion,
Okay.
from my experience.
All right, thank you. The second one is in our company, we are seeing a huge disconnect between sales and recruiting team. What will be your advice? What we should do to make sure that we work as one team?
Sure. You kind of answered that question for me. It's like working as a team, right? So
Mhm.
the front line, the recruiters, the talent acquisition professionals, and having a good relationship with business development and meeting. I know a lot of times business development, you rarely see them in the office because they're out there doing their job, which is fantastic. But you should be building a relationship with one another. So there's again recruiter sharing with business development. They don't know some of the challenges you're running into, as you're recruiting. So really having that relationship with one another, I think ultimately it kind of puts a powerhouse team together because you're working as one
Mhm.
unit, not just I'm bringing in business, you fill the business I bring in, right? I mean, because at the end of the day, right? I mean, that's going to lead to the success of the organization. So for me, it's just about that communication and building a relationship and having synergy between the two recruiters and the recruiter and the business development.
Hmm. I think very well said. It's all about the synergy, getting to know people. Sometimes we play email game rather than picking up the phone. Pick up the phone, but I think before we picking up the phone, before that problem arises, I think in my experience, it's you really need to spend time in knowing people behind the laptop, behind their machine. Get to know who they really are, rather than just name and a title. And as and when you get to know, you build that rapport, then it will be magic. It is not a quick fix. Honestly, as I think Keith was also mentioning, communication is not just you do communication one day and it will be solved. It takes time. And you really need to have that kind of patience and that positive attitude that things will work. Just because few things are not working or few solutions have not worked does not mean that it will not work. The last one,
you have to
sorry.
build that trust. I'm sorry, don't interrupt.
Mhm.
You have to build that trust between one another and kind of realize that you're both, again, need to get to know each other, not just. And my biggest pet peeve is emailing. It just drives
Mm.
me crazy. No, everyone's afraid to pick up the phone these days. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe I'm, but it's like,
Mhm.
pick up the phone, have a conversation, because there's so much lost in translation, right?
The last one is I have been a performing salesperson for last 3 years, but I'm not getting promoted. What will be your inputs, advice for me to get to the next level?
Obviously you mentioned earlier KPIs, right? Are you hitting your KPIs? Or what's stopping you, or what can I do as a leader to help you get there? Is there something that I'm not providing you to help you get promoted, right? And ultimately I think it's about accountability from the top down.
Mm.
So it's really having those one-on-one meetings, right? Whether it be weekly or biweekly meetings, whether it's a ride along, whether, what have you. But ultimately it's like, if you're stuck, how are you stuck? Where are you stuck? How can I help you get unstuck? And what else can I provide you? And at the end of the day, sometimes it's like, well, you're not a good fit. You're stuck and
Hmm.
we can only do so much. And
Okay.
sometimes those people will self-select themselves out
Hmm.
ultimately.
Yeah.
But truly, I feel like it's like, okay, it's my responsibility to help you, give you the
Mm.
tools, and it's communicating. And if I'm not, then shame on me. Let me work on that. If I am, and you can't, you just can't close them, then there's
Hmm.
only so much we can do.
Right, right. So, as Keith mentioned, my input would be have that conversation with your manager. Sometimes your manager may have seen something in you. Maybe they have a better position for you or better role for you, but have that conversation because there is a very little me or Keith can give you insight because we do not have a proper understanding of the structure about the environment. So it will be better you having that conversation with your leader and ask them where you are falling short and what you need to do a little differently. I remember one instance, Keith, I'm talking about back in 2006 and 7. There were two individual recruiters who were very high performing recruiters who were kept into their individual contributor role much longer than the rest of the organization. And if the rest of the organization is moving to the next level for 3 years, these two individuals, they were kept 5 to 5.5 years for individual contributor because that was the demand of the role, that was the demand of the client that they were supporting, and they were able to handle so well. And today, when I look back, they are the top leaders in the respective organization. Yes, they were late in the game, but it was for a reason. As a leadership, we stood by them. We connected with their leadership, and we postponed their promotion just for a better future. So
Yeah.
we noticed that that is the right thing to do then. So maybe something like that probably would be in your case, my friend. So all right, Keith, we are moving to a final segment for our show where I call it as a staffing truth round. Short answers, no overthinking, just your instinct. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So the first one, one word to describe the staffing industry today:
Necessary.
speed or quality. What
Quality.
wins long term? Okay. That's good.
Quality.
Okay. Most overrated KPI in staffing industry.
Phone calls.
Calls. Okay. Top biller always makes a good leader. Agree or disagree?
Disagree.
One thing our recruiters should stop doing immediately.
I want to say it's a one word, but
Yeah.
chasing the commission.
Mm. Chasing the
That's two
commission.
words.
Okay.
No, that's three
Yeah.
words. Sorry,
Yeah.
but yeah.
No, no, that's fine. It was one thing, so it was not one word. So you're good. You're good.
Okay.
Okay. AI, is it an opportunity or threat?
Opportunity.
One trait that destroys leadership credibility.
What lack of communication.
Communication. Okay. Sales driven or candidate driven? What actually works?
Candidate driven.
Now, I want this response from your journey perspective. One mindset shift that you had in your journey that changed your career.
Really, when I came to the realization that I didn't have all the answers. I can extrapolate on that. I don't want to. I can tell a long time. But when you start a company, you have to have all the answers. At least you have to think you have all the answers because you're the one who has to get out there and do it. As years go by, you realize you don't have all the answers and just lean on others.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. The last one is finish this sentence. The future of staffing belongs to leaders who.
Belongs to leaders who, again, invest in their organization, invest in their people, the frontline people. That's the only thing that's going to help you scale and grow is just investing in those people.
Well, thank you. You did amazing, Keith. It was a phenomenal round. And what I'm hearing the theme again and again is investment in people, investing in your contractors. Communication is coming as a repeat thing. AI is more of an opportunity. And build that relationship, build that focus on the bottom line rather than just being happy with the top line. So very powerful connection. Really appreciate you sharing your insight. I'm sure it will be very much beneficial for our listeners and folks who are listening. If this conversation made you pause and reflect on how you are building your team or leading your organization, that's exactly why this podcast exists. And if you are someone who is enjoying or navigating this kind of conversation, please keep liking, sharing this episode, because I know there are many people who want to listen to how our industry is doing and what our industry can do to become better. Again, thank you and have a great
Well,
rest of the day. Thank you,
well,
Keith.
thanks so much.
Pleasure.
I appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
All right. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
You too. Thank you for joining us on the Staffing Truth. Before I let you go, I'd like to ask one favor. If this episode resonated with you, please share with a colleague, a leader, or a friend in the staffing industry. That's how we grow this community and bring more important conversations to the forefront. And if you know a staffing leader whose story, lessons, or leadership journey deserve to be heard, please send them our way. Because the future of our industry won't be shaped by technology alone, but by the leaders behind it. Thank you again for listening to us. I'm Rahul Karan Sharma, and you are listening to The Staffing Truth. Have a great rest of the day.